The wedding music was playing, guests were smiling, then someone screamed. I turned and saw my wife in a chair, her hair falling to the floor, a phone held inches from her face, recording. My daughter-in-law laughed and said, "It's just content." And that's when I realized this wasn't a wedding anymore. My name is Daniel Moore. I'm 61 years old. I live in Fairview Ridge. What happened at my son's wedding destroyed our family in one moment. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let us know in the comments, where are you listening from? I didn't notice the scissors at first. There were too many things happening at once, the music swelling, the chatter of guests, the sharp smell of flowers mixed with hairspray. Weddings are loud in a polite way, like everyone is trying to feel happy at the same volume. My wife, Margaret, sat beside me in the front row, hands folded in her lap. She wore a pale blue dress we'd picked together because it brought out her eyes. Her hair had taken months to grow back to this length. We'd celebrated that quietly at home, just the two of us, when it finally brushed her shoulders again. I remember leaning toward her and whispering, "You look beautiful." She smiled the way she always did when she was nervous, small, grateful, like she didn't quite believe compliments anymore. The ceremony hadn't started yet. People were still finding seats. Someone laughed loudly behind us. A phone camera flashed, then I heard it, not the snip itself, the gasp. A sharp, collective intake of breath that rolled across the room like a wave. I turned instinctively toward the sound, expecting maybe someone had fainted. Instead, I saw my daughter-in-law standing behind Margaret's chair. She was still in her wedding gown, white, immaculate, smiling, and in her hand, scissors. For half a second, my brain refused to understand what my eyes were seeing. It felt like one of those moments when time slows, not dramatically, but wrongfully, as if the world has made a clerical error. Margaret's hair slid down her back and pooled onto the floor. Thick strands dark against the white tiles. Someone screamed this time. I stood up so fast my chair fell backward. "What are you doing?" I shouted. My daughter-in-law didn't look at me. She was looking at her phone, recording. Wait, she said brightly, angling the camera. "I need the reaction." Margaret froze. She didn't scream, she didn't move. She just sat there, staring at her hands, like if she stayed very still, this might stop happening. Another chunk of hair fell. That's when I saw her shoulders start to shake. I pushed forward, but people were in the way, confused, standing, whispering. Someone grabbed my arm, trying to slow me down. Sir, get your hands off me," I yelled. I reached Margaret just as the scissors closed again. I knocked them out of my daughter-in-law's hand. They clattered across the floor. The room went silent. She finally looked at me, not scared. Annoyed, "Why did you do that?" she said. "You ruined it." "Ruined what?" My voice didn't sound like it belonged to me. She rolled her eyes, still holding her phone up. "It's a transformation video. Cancer survivor reveal, people love that." I stared at her. Margaret had survived cancer. She had not survived humiliation. "You didn't ask her," I said slowly. "She would have said no," my daughter-in-law replied, as if that explained everything. Margaret stood up then, hair uneven, tears streaming. Her hands flew to her head, fingers trembling as they touched bare skin. "I want to go home," she whispered. The word home broke something in me. I wrapped my jacket around her shoulders and pulled her close. My son finally appeared, pushing through the crowd. "What's going on?" he asked. I looked at him, really looked at him. At the confusion on his face, at the phone already in his hand. "She shaved your mother's head," I said. He glanced at Margaret, then at his bride. "You weren't supposed to do it yet," he said to her. Yet that word hit harder than any slap could have. Margaret stiffened. "You knew?" she asked him. He hesitated, just for a second, but seconds matter. "It was just supposed to be symbolic," he said weakly. "Like solidarity." With a camera, I snapped. My daughter-in-law sighed loudly. "Oh my God, can everyone relax? It's already blowing up." "Look," she turned the phone screen toward us. I wish I hadn't looked. Comments were already pouring in. "So brave, so emotional, best wedding ever." Someone behind us whispered, "Is this part of the ceremony?" I felt sick. Margaret pulled away from me, wrapping her arms around herself. "You let them do this," she said quietly to my son. Her voice wasn't angry, it was empty. "I didn't think," he started. She shook her head. "You never do." She walked toward the exit. I followed. Behind us, I heard my daughter-in-law say, Wait, we can still salvage this. We'll film an apology." Outside, the air felt colder than it should have. Margaret leaned against the wall, breathing shallowly. "I didn't want anyone to see me like that," she said. "I wasn't ready." I cupped her face gently. "I know," she laughed then. A small, broken sound. "They didn't even ask." "No," I said, "they didn't." We got in the car and drove home in silence. Halfway there, my phone started vibrating. Calls, texts, notifications. A video link, the title was already there. Bride shaves mother-in-law's head in emotional wedding moment, broken sparkles, millions of views, and climbing. I turned the phone face down. Margaret stared out the window. Am I going to be a joke now? No, I said firmly, you're a victim. She closed her eyes. That night, after she finally fell asleep, I sat alone at the kitchen table and watched the video. Every angle, every cut, every caption. The comments praised my daughter-in-law for her creativity, for her heart, for her content. Not one of them knew the truth, and that's when I realized this wasn't just a cruel moment. This was something planned, something monetized, something they thought they could get away with, and I wasn't going to let that happen. The house didn't feel like ours anymore. It was quiet in the wrong way, the kind of quiet that presses on your ears until every thought sounds louder than it should. Margaret slept late the next morning. When she finally came down the stairs, she wore a scarf tied carefully around her head, even though we were alone. She avoided the mirror. I keep thinking I hear scissors, she said softly, pouring coffee with shaking hands. I reached for her mug before it spilled. You don't have to wear that here. I know, she said. I just feel exposed. My phone buzzed again on the counter. I didn't even have to look to know what it was. More notifications, more tags. More strangers dissecting my wife's body like it belonged to them. I opened one message by accident. Your wife is so brave to agree to this. Agree. That word made my jaw tight. She didn't agree, I muttered. Margaret heard it anyway. They think I wanted it. That's because they were told you did. She sat down slowly. Who would tell them that? I didn't answer. Because we both already knew. By noon, the video had crossed 5 million views. My daughter-in-law's account had gained thousands of followers overnight. Brand comments were already appearing. Makeup companies, hair brands, even a wellness page asking to collab on the healing journey, healing from something she caused. I watched the video again, forcing myself to look closer this time. The angle, the lighting, the placement of chairs, it wasn't spontaneous. There was a tripod hidden just out of frame. My stomach turned. She planned it, I said. Margaret nodded. She always plans. That afternoon, my son came alone. No camera this time, no bride. He stood awkwardly in the doorway, hands shoved into his pockets. She's not doing well, he said. I didn't invite him in. How convenient, I replied. He sighed. You don't understand the pressure she's under. This is her job. At the expense of your mother, I snapped. She didn't mean it like that. Margaret appeared behind me. My son's eyes flicked to the scarf, then away. I'm sorry, he said too quickly, but it's already out there. You can't put it back, Margaret spoke before I could. You could take it down, he hesitated. She says it's too late, he admitted. The algorithm's already picked it up, the algorithm. As if it were a force of nature. Then choose, I said, your wife's content or your mother's dignity. He didn't answer. He left 10 minutes later without hugging either of us. That night, Margaret cried in the shower, trying to be quiet. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at my hands, feeling useless. The next morning, she didn't cry. That scared me more. I want to know what else she filmed, Margaret said calmly. What do you mean? She didn't just film that moment, she said. She's always filming. That's when we started looking, old videos. Stories, deleted clips saved in repost accounts. Moments Margaret hadn't known were public. A clip of her napping on the couch during chemo. A before photo of her thinning hair captioned realness. A whispered joke about how emotional she gets. Each one felt like a small theft. By the time we finished, Margaret was pale. I trusted her, she said. I let her into our house. My phone rang. Unknown number, I answered. This is a PR consultant, a woman said smoothly. I represent your daughter-in-law. I laughed once, sharp, bitter. She wants to help control the narrative, the woman continued. We're suggesting a joint video, a reconciliation moment. It would be very powerful. You want my wife to perform her forgiveness, I said. Closure is popular, she replied. I hung up. That afternoon, Margaret received a message directly. I'm sorry if you felt embarrassed. If this could have been beautiful if you trusted me. Trusted. Margaret put the phone down. She still doesn't get it, she said. No, I replied. She never will. That evening, we made a decision. We wouldn't beg, we wouldn't perform, we wouldn't play along, but we wouldn't stay silent either. Margaret sat at the table with a notebook. I want to write what actually happened, she said. For who? I asked. For myself, she replied, and for anyone who thinks consent is optional, she wrote slowly, carefully. Choosing words the way someone chooses bandages. When she finished, she looked at me. I don't want my name attached to it yet, she said. But I want it documented. The next morning, the video disappeared for exactly 6 hours. Then it was back, uploaded, edited, now with dramatic music. And a new caption, "When kindness is misunderstood." I felt something inside me harden. "They're rewriting it," I said. Margaret nodded. "Then we tell the truth." That's when we contacted a journalist. Not a gossip site, not a blog, someone who covered digital ethics. The call lasted an hour. The reporter didn't interrupt once. At the end, she said, "This isn't a wedding story, it's an exploitation story." For the first time since the ceremony, Margaret smiled, small but real. "I don't want revenge," she said that night. "I want accountability." And as I watched my wife sit straighter, scarf loosened, eyes clearer, I knew the viral video was about to meet something far stronger than views: truth. The article didn't come out right away. That's something people don't realize about real journalism. It doesn't move at the speed of outrage, it moves at the speed of verification. Which gave my daughter-in-law time to panic. The first sign was a voicemail left on Margaret's phone at 6:12 a.m. Not an apology, a request. "Please," she said, voice tight and breathy. "Just don't talk to anyone else, we can fix this." Fix, as if what she'd done was a cracked vase, not a violation. Margaret deleted the message without responding. By mid-morning, my son showed up again. This time he looked angry, not defensive. "Angry, you went to the press," he demanded, standing in our living room like he owned it. I stayed seated. "They came to us. You're destroying our lives," he said. "Sponsors are pulling back. People are asking questions." Margaret spoke from the doorway. "Good." He turned to her sharply. "You don't understand how this works." She walked forward, untying the scarf as she moved. For the first time since the wedding, she stood in front of him without hiding. Her hair was uneven, patchy. "Honest, this is how it works," she said calmly. "You hurt someone, people find out." He looked away. "Take the video down," she continued. He laughed bitterly. "It's everywhere. You uploaded it," I said. "You can delete it. That won't stop the copies." "No," Margaret replied, "but it will show intent." He shook his head. "She built her career on moments like this." "Then she built it on cruelty," I said. That's when his phone buzzed. He checked it. Color drained from his face. "They're launching a fundraiser," he said quietly. "For what?" I asked. He swallowed. "For cancer awareness, using the video." Margaret closed her eyes. They weren't just exploiting her pain anymore. They were laundering it. That afternoon, the journalist called back. "I need one more thing," she said. "Proof she didn't consent." Margaret didn't hesitate. She pulled up the message thread. The one sent 2 days before the wedding. "I don't want anything about my illness online. Please don't film me. Read at 3:08 p.m. No reply. The reporter went quiet. "This changes everything," she said. The article published the next morning. Headline first, then facts, no insults, no dramatics, just truth. By noon, the tone online shifted. Comments turned. Questions surfaced. Brands went silent. The video didn't look inspirational anymore. It looked staged, exploitative, cruel. My daughter-in-law posted a response within hours. A video, tears, soft lighting, carefully chosen words. "I never meant to hurt anyone," she said. "I was trying to honor strength." She didn't mention consent. She didn't mention Margaret's request. She didn't mention the scissors. Margaret watched it once, then closed the app. "That's not accountability," she said. "That's damage control." The next move surprised us. A legal letter arrived from her, accusing us of defamation. I laughed out loud. Margaret didn't. She read it slowly, hands steady. "She's doubling down," she said. Our lawyer was calm. "This won't go anywhere," she assured us. "But it tells me something." "What?" I asked. "She's afraid," the lawyer said. "That night my son called, crying, really crying. I didn't think it would go this far," he said. "I thought it was just content." Margaret took the phone from me. "Do you know what cancer took from me?" she asked quietly. He sniffed. "Your hair, my sense of control," she said. "And you let her take it again." Silence. "I don't recognize you," she continued. "And I don't know if I want to." She handed the phone back. 2 days later, the wedding photos were quietly removed from her profile. The video followed, not deleted, archived, hidden. It wasn't an apology, but it was a retreat. The article continued to spread. Panels discussed it. Experts weighed in. Consent became the conversation. Margaret received messages from strangers, thank yous, confessions. Stories of similar violations. "You helped me say no," one woman wrote. Margaret cried reading that, not from pain, from release. But the confrontation hadn't happened yet, not the real one. That came when my daughter-in-law asked to meet, alone. We met at a cafe halfway between our houses. Neutral ground, public, controlled. Margaret insisted on coming. "I'm not hiding anymore," she said, tying the scarf loosely instead of tight. "If she wants to face this, she can face all of me." My daughter-in-law was already there when we arrived. No camera, no ring light, no phone in sight. She looked smaller without an audience. She stood when she saw us. "Thank you for coming." Margaret sat across from her without replying. I stayed quiet. This wasn't my moment. "I didn't think it would hurt you like this," my daughter-in-law said finally. "I honestly thought," Margaret raised a hand. "Stop." The word was calm, final. "I don't care what you thought," Margaret continued. "I care what you did," my daughter-in-law swallowed. "I was trying to show strength." "You showed power," Margaret said. "Over someone who was vulnerable." Her eyes flicked to the scarf, then away. "I said I was sorry," she whispered. "You said you were sorry if I felt embarrassed," Margaret replied. "That's not an apology, that's a strategy." Silence stretched between us. I watched my daughter-in-law's hands twist together, restless without something to hold. "My career is collapsing," she said. "Brands are leaving, people hate me." Margaret leaned forward. "Good." The word landed like a dropped cup. "You think this is about you being liked?" Margaret asked. "You stole my choice. You stole my dignity and you monetized it." Tears filled my daughter-in-law's eyes. "Real this time, maybe. I didn't force you," she said weakly. Margaret's voice hardened. "You waited until I was seated, until everyone was watching, until the pressure made no impossible." She paused. "That's coercion." I saw it then, the shift. My daughter-in-law wasn't confused anymore. She was cornered. "What do you want?" she asked quietly. Margaret didn't answer right away. She looked at me. I nodded. "I want 3 things," Margaret said. "First, you publicly acknowledge that you did not have my consent." My daughter-in-law flinched. "Second, you remove every piece of content involving my illness." "Permanently?" She nodded slowly. "And third," Margaret said, voice steady, "you never use another person's suffering for attention again. Especially not someone who can't walk away." My daughter-in-law wiped her eyes. "If I do that, I lose everything." Margaret met her gaze. "I already did. The difference is I didn't choose it." The cafe noise filled the space between us. Cups clinked, a grinder whined, life continued. "I'll do it," my daughter-in-law said finally. "But you need to understand, I didn't grow up learning boundaries." Margaret stood. "That's not my responsibility," she said. We left without shaking hands. That evening the statement went up. Not a video, a text post. Short, unpolished, uncomfortable. "I acted without consent. I caused harm. I'm sorry." The comments were brutal, but different. Not praise, not outrage, accountability. The next week was quiet. No calls, no threats, no lawyers. Margaret started going out without a scarf. At the grocery store, a woman recognized her, not from the wedding, from the article. She approached gently. "Thank you for speaking up." Margaret smiled. For the first time, she believed it. "My son came by alone one afternoon. He looked older, smaller." "I'm staying with a friend," he said. "She asked for space." Margaret nodded. "That's wise. I didn't protect you," he said. "I know that now." She studied him for a long moment. "You protected your comfort," she replied. "That's not the same thing." He nodded, tears spilling. "I don't know how to fix this." Margaret sighed. "You don't fix it, you live with it. And you do better." That night, she told me something she hadn't said before. "When she cut my hair," Margaret said quietly, "I felt like I disappeared. Like my body wasn't mine anymore." I took her hand. "But sitting in that cafe," she continued, "I felt present, seen not as content, as a person." The difference mattered. The world moved on as it always does. New scandals, new outrage, but something had shifted, not just online, in our family. In Margaret, she scheduled a haircut herself, chose the style. Chose the length. When she came home, she smiled at her reflection. "I like this," she said, and for the first time since the wedding, so did I. The apology didn't fix anything. It changed the temperature, sure. The shouting online cooled, the pylons thinned, but the damage didn't evaporate just because a paragraph existed on a screen. Consequences have inertia. Margaret felt it first in small ways. At the grocery store, people stared less, but they stared longer, like they were measuring her against a memory they didn't fully trust anymore. Some smiled with pity, others looked away too quickly, embarrassed by recognition. "I hate that they think they know me," she said one afternoon, setting bags on the counter. "I'm not a lesson," I nodded. "You're not," but I knew what she meant. Once a story becomes public, it stops belonging to the person it happened to. My daughter-in-law's world collapsed faster than I expected. Sponsors didn't just leave, they issued statements. Carefully worded, sanitized statements about values and consent and accountability. Each one was another door closing. Her following dropped in waves. Thousands at first, then tens of thousands. She tried to pivot, cooking videos, lifestyle posts, quiet mornings. Nothing landed. People don't forget betrayal when it's been packaged and sold to them. My son stopped calling as much. When he did, his voice sounded thin, like someone who'd lost the map to his own life. "She doesn't recognize herself," he said once. "She keeps saying she didn't mean it." "That's not the same as understanding it," I replied. He sighed. "I know." Margaret listened from the other room. She didn't comment anymore. She didn't offer advice. She had stepped back from being the emotional shock absorber she'd been for years. That, too, was a consequence. One evening, an email arrived from the venue. They were reviewing policies. They were committed to ethical practices. Translation, they were distancing themselves. A month later, a panel discussion aired online about digital consent. Margaret was invited to speak. She said no. "I don't want a platform," she told me. "I want a life." Instead, she wrote a letter. Not for publication, for herself. She read it to me one night, voice steady. "I am not content. I am not resilient for your benefit. My pain is not raw material. I survived. That does not make me available." I felt my chest tighten. "You should share that," I said. She shook her head. "Some truths don't need an audience." The divorce papers came quietly, no spectacle. No drama. My son signed, his wife signed. They didn't fight over money. They fought over narrative. Who would say what? Who would stay silent? Margaret didn't attend the mediation. "That chapter closed at the cafe," she said. "After the divorce, my son moved into a small apartment near his work. He came by one evening with a bottle of wine, looking unsure of his welcome. Margaret opened the door. She didn't hug him, but she didn't close it either. They sat across from each other at the table, the same place where she'd once spread her notes documenting harm. "I failed you," he said. She waited. "I failed to choose you," he continued. She nodded. "Yes." He winced at the simplicity. "I don't know who I am without her," he said. Margaret leaned back. "Then find out alone." He left 2 hours later, quieter, sobered, changed, not redeemed, changed. Weeks passed. Margaret's hair grew, slowly, unevenly, honestly. She stopped wearing scarves altogether, not as a statement, as a preference. One afternoon, we walked through the park. A young woman approached us, hesitant. "I hope this isn't inappropriate," she said, eyes flicking to Margaret's hair. "But thank you." Margaret tilted her head. "For what?" "For not forgiving publicly," the woman said. "It helped me say no to my boss." Margaret smiled softly. "I'm glad." The woman walked away lighter. Margaret exhaled. "That's enough," she said. "If that's all that comes from this, it's enough." The last consequence arrived when we least expected it. A letter from a university ethics board. They were revising a case study, removing footage. Citing Margaret's story anonymously. "Your experience contributed to new guidelines," the letter read. Margaret folded it carefully and placed it in a drawer. No frame, no wall, just a record. One night, months later, we sat on the porch watching the sun sink behind the trees. "Do you regret going public?" I asked. She thought for a long moment. "No," she said. "I regret being made public." There was a difference. Her phone buzzed. A message from my son. "I'm in therapy. I'm learning about boundaries." Margaret stared at the screen. She didn't reply, not yet. Some consequences don't demand response. They demand space. And for the first time since the wedding, space didn't feel like loss. It felt like healing in progress. The last apology came when no one was watching. Not on lines, not recorded, not posted. It arrived in an envelope, handwritten. No logo, no branding, no legal language, just ink on paper. Margaret opened it at the kitchen table, sunlight falling across the wood the same way it always had. Ordinary, safe. She read it once without expression, then again slower. Then she folded it carefully and set it down. "She finally understood," she said. I didn't ask how she knew. I could tell by the way her shoulders rested, no tension, no anticipation of another blow. "What did she say?" I asked. Margaret considered the question. She didn't explain herself. That mattered. She didn't justify, Margaret continued. She didn't ask for forgiveness. She didn't center herself. I nodded. "That's the first real apology," Margaret said. She didn't cry. She didn't smile. She stood up, walked to the sink, and rinsed her coffee cup. Closure doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it just arrives. Life didn't snap back into place after that. It settled. Margaret started volunteering again, quietly, at a community center where no one recognized her and no one cared about her past. She helped women navigate paperwork, medical forms, insurance claims. Control reclaimed through small decisions. One afternoon, she came home with a new haircut, shorter than before, intentional. "I chose it," she said, touching the side of her head. No symbolism. Just comfort. It suited her. My son came by less often, but when he did, he stayed longer. He listened more than he spoke. Once, as he stood to leave, he hesitated at the door. "I'm learning that love without consent isn't love," he said quietly. Margaret met his eyes. "Then keep learning." That was all. No absolution, no punishment, just truth. Months passed. The video faded from memory the way all viral things do, replaced by something louder, newer, crueler. That's the rhythm of the internet. But what lingered wasn't the outrage, it was the lesson. Margaret received an email from a woman she'd never met. "I left my job today," the message read, "because I realized I was being filmed without my consent for team culture. I remembered your story." Margaret forwarded it to me with one line, "This is why I didn't stay silent." One evening, as we sat watching the news, a segment aired about updated digital consent laws. New language, clearer definitions. I glanced at Margaret. She didn't react. Later, she said, "I don't need credit. I need fewer women to feel trapped." That night, she slept deeply. No dreams, no restlessness. I watched her breathing slow, steady, unafraid. The house felt peaceful again, not because nothing bad had happened, but because nothing bad was being hidden anymore. On the anniversary of the wedding, the one that never really happened, we did something simple. We went to the lake, just the two of us. We sat on a bench, feet in the sand, the water moving without urgency. "Do you ever think about that day?" I asked. "Yes," Margaret said, "but not with shame." "What do you feel?" she thought. Ownership, that word stayed with me. Later, my son sent a message. "I understand now why you left that day." Margaret typed a response. "Understanding is a beginning, behavior is the proof." She didn't press send immediately. She read it once, then sent it. The final moment came quietly, the way all real endings do. We were cleaning out a drawer when Margaret found the scarf she'd worn after the wedding. She held it for a second, then folded it, then placed it at the bottom of the drawer, not thrown away. Not displayed, just stored, a memory, not a wound. "I don't need this anymore," she said. I kissed her temple. "You never did." That night, as we turned off the lights, she said something I'll carry with me for the rest of my life. "They tried to turn my pain into a spectacle," she said. "But pain doesn't belong to the loudest voice in the room. It belongs to the person living in the body." She reached for my hand. "And I live here," she added. The house went dark, no cameras. No audience, no performance, just a woman who chose herself, and a man who stood beside her, not as a savior, not as a hero, but as a witness. The story didn't end with forgiveness. It ended with autonomy, and that was enough.